noise.
So, Waves came out a year later, the second record, and what do you feel had changed from the first one to that one that, actually changed? And then also, if you can recall, maybe what you guys were aiming for that might have been beyond or different.
You said it, beyond. We were trying to go beyond the first LP, the Let's Get Crackin'. I mean, that gives you the energy. You go, okay, we've done this. This was just kind of like something we just did without really knowing as much as we know now. Now, let's back it up with something bigger and better. We've got all this experience from the first thing that we did. A lot of things changed. That attitude, plus the environment we were working in, a bigger studio we were working in, same guys in Portland where we tracked most of the stuff there, except for a couple cuts, I think. And, better quality musicianship. We brought in a few extra people to do backgrounds and things. And just the overall energy was, and what it all boils down to, though, was, is the material gonna be good? And there's all those things. But your expectations are to be better than the first. You just want to keep going up. As, that's kind of natural. And but a lot of things, the environment, that stuff that I just talked about, and just wanting to make it bigger and badder and better, I felt, for me, Let's Get Crackin', there's hands down, that was it. But for me, I loved the Waves album. I think, for me, it was produced the best. I think it had the coolest material, really a lot of energy. Production was cool, and I had the best experience with that record, I think. Most complete experience for me.
Yeah. Well, it kicks off with Electrophonic Phunk, and you guys are basically declaring a new genre pretty much.
That was pretty bold, and if I remember correctly, I think radio was a little like, you can't say it's not this, it's not that, we're a little edgy about that. I think that's kind of where it went. Again, don't quote me on this, but I kind of seem to remember there was some backlash about that. But to us, and to me, that groove was like killing. And it was just, it had a lot of energy, it was mean, it was funky. And I love the chanting in it, and I thought it was a killer tune. So, but what do I know? See, none of us know.
Well, and rap started getting a little bit of play in the band too.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Loosen Up is really funky.
I love that tune too. Those two songs, that's what I was saying. The Waves album to me, pound for pound, was the best one, just overall. But yeah, Loosen Up, killer. When we redid that song on the 30th anniversary CD, it's even better. Just the way we did it.
And you guys did the sequel, The Crack Is Back.
Right.
Yeah. Was that because you were hoping to repeat that success, or you just, what do you think inspired?
Maybe we thought that, we just thought, well, we got to incorporate Crackin' somehow again, Here we are again. This is our second, our second showing. And that song was one of those things that just kind of happened, and everybody collaborated together. And we actually recorded that one down at Fantasy Studios, and it just kind of came together. And that was that might have been the Crack is Back. The title, I think it was, hey, here we are back again. The guys that did Crackin', and the Crack is back, because we love that groove too. That was funky groove. Mm-hmm. And Malcolm just rapped over the top. That stuff just came out. He just was great at that. And we got into that, recording that song, and next thing you know, when the dust settled, it was done, and we loved it. We thought it was just a great song. It was just fun. Everybody was having a great time. Just a lot of guys, though. Man, I don't know how we did it. Kept saying.
Well, the title, it definitely takes the cake, though, and you were a writer on this, is Mr. Wizard and the Funk Bomb.
Oh, yeah. Now, there was an original version of that one way back, so we redid that one, I think. But that song, yeah, that was just let's just go in and make something happen, and everybody kind of added their little parts, and we just created that tune. And what is Mr. Wizard and the Funk Bomb anyway? I have no idea. But at the time, it made sense, We were nuts, that was kind of part of our deal. We were a little nuts. And you ask anybody in the circles back in the day in the Portland area, and they will tell you as much, But that's part of creativity, and originality. It's just the unexpected stuff has to be out there, in there too. I think that makes people remember, Yeah.
Did you guys try to go for any sort of gimmicks or, matching stage costumes or anything like that when you were on stage? What was your presentation, objective or aesthetic?
Yeah. In those early days, it was definitely the Earth, Wind, and Fire vibe thing. All the sequence stuff and satin bell bottoms and that kind of thing. And no, I did not pull that off very well.
We need visuals on that, Joe.
Oh, my God. I look at pictures and, I cringe. They're scary. But, yeah, so that was the vibe, back then. We were trying to be the shiny horn band that had the dance steps sort of, and at least the horn section, and kind of go that route.
Now, with that, was it the first album or the second album where you guys got this accolade from Rolling Stone? And do you remember that?
No.
I've heard. I didn't see the issue, but I've heard that they proclaimed Shock as one of the hot, upcoming groups and so forth.
I do remember that now. I do, now that you say that. Yeah, I remember seeing that. I wish I had that article, scrapbook. But I do remember that. I couldn't elaborate on it much though for you, because it's one of those things, a blur, at this point.
Well, so
very cool.
At least viewers and listeners understand the impact that you guys were making, that you were recognized by a national trade like that. And
yeah.
How did you guys feel about the reception and how Waves did?
We were a little disappointed, I think. I think I was. I know I was, and I think I could speak for a few others, because you're anticipating it being bigger and better. You think what you did was a product that the people are going to just go, this is amazing, and this is, we're going to sell more albums. And it just didn't happen. I don't think it obviously didn't happen the same way as the first one, because Let's Get Crackin' was just the deal. And that happens to a lot of, a lot of bands. Just first one's a good one, and then the second one's kind of a flop, or you got to recover and come back and do something better the third time around.
Third time around was Nite Life in '83, and really strong record, you know.
I thought so too. I thought it was really strong. I thought the material was great on that record. It was a completely different approach as far as how they gave us a bigger budget. We recorded it primarily down at Fantasy Studios, whereas the first one was recorded all, I believe, in Portland. Second one was mostly Portland and then a few tunes at Fantasy, but this one was the biggest budget. I think they were really trying to knock it out of the park, and so we were able to, record the whole thing down there. And completely different vibe. And at that point, the band had changed. It was scaled down, as you probably know. We did not have the horn section anymore. And so it was just 5 of us. I believe that's right. And so I dug it. It had a little bit more of a rock edge to it in certain spots. The mix was completely different. It was a little bit more of that live sound drum feel that I think they were trying to go for at the time. I think some of us wanted it to be more of the tighter sound that it was before because of the material, but it ended up being what it was. And "Waitin' on Your Love" was a great song. So, and it's got the killer bass line in there.
Yeah,
I don't know who did that.
Great funky dance R&B track, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it was a really good record and showed you guys, transitioning, like you said, and it was a sign of the times too. I mean, so many of the R&B funk groups sort of ditched the horns and went with the synthesizers instead, and
right.
Sort of that little like harsher sounding drum,
right.
beat.
Yeah, it was just a matter of trying to keep up with the Joneses, and what was happening at the time and be current. And, it was some of the old from us trying to meet the new. And so, like I said, it was a completely different vibe tracking that record.
People need to seek it out, though, in my opinion. I mean, Nite Life, just, that was different because it was not only funky, but it had that sort of guitar picking element instead of the strumming kind of thing that was more common in Shock's stuff.
Yeah, I remember that part. I remember creating it in a basement, or coming up with it.
Yeah, you're actually, I think you have more songwriting credits on this one.
Yeah, do I? I can't remember, but I know I was involved in it one way or another. Throughout the whole time with the Shock Band. Roger and I were pretty tight all the way through it, growing up together and stuff. We were pretty much doing everything together. And, I mean, he did most of the creating and the writing. But we did collaborate on things too, and a part of that was because we were around each other a lot. We knew each other so well, and we could bounce off each other fairly easily. So, but yeah, it's. I didn't realize I had more writing credits on there.
Yeah, and you mentioned rocking. Straighten Up is one definitely has a little more rock edge to it, and an influence that I felt on this one that everyone I think was feeling in 1983 was a little bit of Prince, Minneapolis kind of sound creeping.
Yeah. In. So Straighten Up. I'm a writer on that. I think. But yeah, that's kind of got more of that vibe to it for sure.
We Got to Get You a Woman is different. Todd Rundgren cover, I guess, and I don't really know the original, but this track is very different for Shock in its sound and approach. But it's cool. I enjoy it.
It's very cool. It's a great thing. The story behind that is that we were done tracking the record and they wanted to add another tune. And at the time at Fantasy, I believe Journey was recording in one of the other studios. And at that time, it was Randy Jackson who was playing bass. And that's actually Randy Jackson playing on that tune. And they just kind of put that together. So I had no involvement in that one.
Did you get to meet him or hang with him at all? Or?
I didn't get to meet him, no.
Oh.
I think we popped in the studio where they were tracking a couple times when we were down there and said hi, but I mean, you know, I'm in my early 20s. My eyes are like this big. It was a blur, you know. But I didn't get to formally meet Randy Jackson. That would have been great, but that didn't happen.
San Juan, really cool instrumental.
Yeah. That's a great song, too. Had a blast doing that one. A lot of Roger synthesizer stuff on that, which we love, that kind of stuff. The kind of tune that we could jam on for hours, that kind of thing. Back in the old days when we'd go do house parties and stuff, not even that the shock band, but Roger and I and a couple other guys from the band or whatever. That's the kind of stuff where we would just go in and play this group for a long time, and I think that's kind of where that tune came from. We all just enjoyed watching him, you know, go into outer space with his synth solos.
I think it speaks to how strong it was, because typically an instrumental track would be like relegated to like the final cut or something on a record. But on this one, it's number 3, which is a prime slot.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's right. Wow. I don't know who made that decision, but yeah, it speaks to, you know, how good it was.
So, unfortunately, things didn't pan out as you guys had hoped at that point, and as a lot of fans of Shock had hoped. So, you know, what happened from that point on until, I know there was a resurface in the late 80s, but can you kind of step us through that?
Let's see. We got dropped from Fantasy, and I think the band, I honestly don't remember in detail how it all went down from there, but I mean, the band eventually broke up. And out of that came a few other side projects that Roger did. Hypertension was a band, was mostly Shock guys. It was more towards the funk rock stuff because of the times and things were changing. And then it just kind of went away. You know, Roger redid, after Hypertension, he put together a different version of Shock, which was more of a later 80s version. And they had a hit, I think, Talk About Love. I wasn't in that band. I was out of it by then. And they did other stuff. They were pretty big in the Pacific Northwest. And but yeah, it just kind of went away. For me, that's kind of what I remember, how it all, I mean, we just got dropped and that was a drag. And how it kind of fizzled out, I don't remember in detail, you know. I think we all just kind of went our separate ways for a while. Everyone else was doing other kind of local bands around town, I'm sure of it, you know. But we all came from different backgrounds, and it just, you know, went away. And not until later did we kind of reconnect and see how everybody's doing, but that's like 10 lifetimes ago, you know.
But at some point during the 80s, you played some with Kenny G, right?
Yeah, so, okay, that's right. So out of that, because Marlon was playing with Jeff Lorber, this is what happened. Thank you for jogging my memory. And that was probably, I don't know, he was playing with Lorber around the same time. Like, he would know, but I remember it being somewhere between early 80s, 83, 84, whatever. But he was playing with Lorber, and at that time, Kenny G was his sax player, who then got a solo deal with Arista, and then he needed a band, and so just to play a few shows in the Northwest. So Marlon was going to be the guitar player for Kenny. I think he was maybe doing double duty there at first, and then they need some other players, so he graciously recommended Roger and me, and so that's how I got into that whole thing. And that was before the recording of the Duotones record. So it was still pretty localized. It was pretty small. We were doing shows up in Seattle, up in Vancouver, BC, and Portland area. We did some shows, and I think there were some Shock guys that got fused into a couple of those shows too. Somehow it went like that. I got some pictures of Kenny and then some of the Shock guys playing at a venue downtown Portland, so I know we did that. Yeah, and then we were doing that. That was around '85, and then and he was at the same time doing. He had done a couple solo CDs, records before, and then he did the Duotones album, and I recorded on that, and then it just went, of course, went nuts. So the next thing I know, and I'm playing, in these huge stadiums, 85, 86 time, and that was great. So I got to track on the Duotones, a couple of songs, I think, and then Silhouette album, at least on one, and but toured that whole time. And again, Marlon was the original guitar player. That I don't remember when that all turned, when he was gone from that, but Roger and I were still in it, and then he picked up a couple other Seattle guys, guitar player John Raymond, who I still work with now on projects, and then we toured with that other band, the big shows, and I got to do a lot of stuff opening for, we toured with George Benson, Michael McDonald, did stuff with the Commodores, all kinds of stuff, just everybody. It was a great experience for me, so that was for a couple of years. I did that.
Wow, so that's cool. So although you didn't get out much touring with Shock, you did kind of get some of that with Kenny G. So
I got all my big time touring experience through that, yeah. Which is really funny because you would think I would already have it from the Shock days, but it wasn't. That wasn't it. It was all the Kenny G stuff, and Kenny is just a great guy, and everybody in the band, had a great time. We toured all over the country, and it was just an amazing time in my life, and I got so much out of that, and I still get a lot of mileage out of that experience, both with all my stuff and recognition and the experience of the players and the connections I made with other musicians and work I get from it.
Well, I was a Jeff Lorber Fusion fan in the '70s, so
Yeah.
And really appreciate Kenny Gorlick's work on that. And I don't think any of us ever expected that he would blow up to the extent he did on his own. I mean, that was just astounding.
It was amazing, and I think that song, A Songbird, I think I'm pretty sure I'm right about this, but I think a lot of that was tracked on an 8-track recording, an 8-track recorder in his home up in Seattle, and just the basic tracks kind of thing. At least it was written that way, and then for it to do what it did, that just goes to show you, you never know, you just never know. It's like playing the lottery.
Yeah. Well, just if people only know him for that, they should know that he got down before that with Lorber Fusion. They did some great funk jazz stuff, and
Absolutely.
Did you ever did you have to ever tone it down though, playing his stuff? Were you ever getting a little too shocky, funky?
No, because back in those days, his band was more high energy. It wasn't until after the Duotone song became a hit that everything slowed way down and tailored to that audience, which is what you got to do. But no, when I was in it, we were rocking out pretty good. I mean, it was still a lot of energy, and so I didn't have to worry about that.
Good. Well, it sounds like that was a great time.
It was.
Yeah. So, you mentioned the Shock record in the late '90s that Marlon McClain was involved with, and Roger, but not yourself. I know the group came back with the record Retro Man in '94, and how did that come together involving you?
Okay. Well, Roger was living in Portland at the time. He had been, I think, in LA for a few years, and then he moved back, and he recorded that whole thing mostly in his home studio, and just called me up to come over and track bass on it. But he owned the name Shock, and it was a Shock record, and he sings on all those songs. That's Roger singing. And so that is just a creation that he did all himself, just because, he wanted to express whatever he wanted to express at the time, and he has the talent to do that. And so, he had me come over and track, and a couple other guys that had been at one time or another involved in Shock. Other guitar player, Scott Boyd, who's on that Retro Man CD. And he just created it all himself and put it out there. So there really was not a band to go with that CD. So that's what that was all about. I mean, that's how that came to be. I'm sure there's some different nuances in there that Roger could tell you, but that's my perspective on it.
Well, to the extent it was a band or not, I thought it was a strong comeback. I mean, a lot of good music on there.
Totally. He wrote some great stuff for that. I thought it was awesome. Yeah, for sure.
And even it starts off with that Time or Our Lives, real like Zap style funk type groove.
Totally. I think when he had done his other version of Shock in the late 80s, he was doing a lot of that stuff. The Talk About Love Time and all that. And so that carried over into what he did with Retro Man. I think he wanted to, he needed to get that out there some more. And that vibe, and it was just killer. It was just always slamming grooves with that total Zap thing going on. And so super fun.
Yeah. And it starts off with a lot of great funk tracks. I don't know how much you remember some of these individual tracks, but I just want to mention TV talk show Utopia. I hear like the Ms. Got the Body confunction type groove in that one, and Ricky's Point of View, sort of like Dazz meets New Jack Swing.
Yeah. I dug that song. Yeah.
And real experimental, kind of incorrect with this like stutter step rhythm on, if you remember that one.
Yeah, I play on that one. I remember it, and it's because it's kind of got that Tower Power, David Garibaldi drum feel going on, and totally love that. Again, all those songs are really strong on that CD that he did, and a lot of it, to me was he was in complete control of the whole project. He was zeroed in on it, and he was just doing what he wanted to do, and from the start to finish, it came across great. I think he mixed it, and mastered it all himself too. So, but yeah, that's another great song for sure.
I'll call you out on Eyes on the Prize. Some nice plucking on that one.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, man, he's I love playing on all that funk stuff of Rogers. He's just so easy to pocket, especially when there's synth bass playing. I'm not the predominant low end. I get to just kind of dress up what's already there, and I love doing that stuff.
And it seemed like on this one he was going for more of a message in some of it too. Like he wanted to make a statement musically and thematically. I'm sure he could speak to that obviously better than you could, but I just want to mention that because I think it's worth noting.
Yep, absolutely. You're right. Totally was.
So it was kind of funk with an edge in both ways, musically and thematically. So unfortunately, as far as I know, that was the last official Shock record, right? In terms of new material.
In terms of new material, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And you guys have played together since then. I know, I don't know how often it's happened, but I know there's a 2017 video out there that has you guys, including Marlon playing together and.
Okay, yeah, we did that show. That was a reunion show, so to speak. We actually were opening up for Ohio Players, and so they billed us with them. And we had actually done a couple before that, a few years before. There's a thing called the Oregon Music Hall of Fame, and they do that every year, and they recognize, longtime musicians in the Portland, or Oregon, along with having entertainment. And of that, they try to get bands from the past to go perform. And yeah, that time was we opened for the Ohio Players. And it was really fun. It was really fun. We did, I think, pretty much all the popular tunes that we had. It was like an hour set or something, and it was just one after the other. And we rehearsed once. But before that, there was a lot of rehearsing. Everybody got tracks of things and instructions on what to do and arrangements and things. Everybody was still a professional, and we came together, and it was a reunion for us as well. It was great to see everybody, and everyone was healthy, and we had a blast. That was very fun. So, and then that we had that 30th, anniversary CD that came out, which compilation of all the older stuff, with a couple of remakes of Nite Life and Loosen Up on there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool stuff. I mean, I hope at some point maybe you guys will do that again, or have the opportunity to.
Yeah, I want to do it again. I think everybody wants to do it again, and it's just there's a lot of people in life, and coordinating that is the tough part, So we certainly would love to do it again. Yeah. I hope.
And you came out with your record in 2012, After Hours, which is definitely more of a sort of a jazzy type thing. How did it come to be that you finally got something out there, and what were you hoping to achieve?
Okay, so when I moved to Bend, Oregon, almost 20 years ago now, I was not focusing on playing music or anything at that time. I just had my daughter, was looking to get out of the bigger city, move to somewhere a little more simple. So when I got here, I started looking for music in town. That led to me ending up playing with a couple of very talented people here. A friend of mine, AJ Cohen from Philadelphia, who had lived in Bend for already 10, 15 years or whatever, piano player, who actually was from Philly, knew Jeff Lorber. He actually dated his sister. Small world. So wow. I played with him, and a sax player from who was originally from Salt Lake, Andy War, who was on my CD a lot and co-wrote a lot of stuff with me. Those two guys I started playing with in Bend. And that music was kind of more of the smoother stuff, right? It was more smooth jazz-oriented stuff. We would do some cover stuff, and I had kind of already stockpiled a few ideas, and we just collaborated and said, let's come up with some original material to play live. So we started doing not only some of AJ's material, but some of mine. And then... So that's how I started to get the idea rolling, right? And then I get to a point where I've kind of got enough tunes, and I want to do a project. And I'd always thought I wanted to do a project, but it's one thing to think it and the other thing to do it. It's a lot of work. And so I had that goal. My goal was to get it done by the time I was 50. I got it done when I was 52, I think. So that was pretty good. So that's how it all started. And so then Andy, the sax player, who was writing melodies to some of my, my grooves and stuff, we would write these songs together and then kind of just stockpiled these ideas. And then I got to a point when I wanted to put together the project, put one out. I got a little more serious about it. So I just started brainstorming and putting it together and investing a lot of time. Cleaning up and finishing up a lot of tunes, and then connecting with some other players that I loved. I got, John Raymond, Kenny G's guitar player, plays on a lot of my stuff, and he co-produced to that CD with me. I got Marlon to play on a tune. I got Jeff Lorber to play on a couple of things. He co-wrote one of the songs and plays on another one. Gerald Albright, sax player. I got him on there. That was through Roger, his connection with him. And Roger's on it too, of course. And then a guitar player guy by the name of Dean Brown, who he lives in LA now, but he was Marcus Miller's guitar player for a while there during that time. And I just fell in love with him and how crazy he was and how good he was. His stage presence and everything. I just love this guy. So I reached out to him and got him to play on track too. And so you get some names on there. I kind of put this whole thing together. I spent a couple of years putting it together. And that's how it came together. I mean, I still can't believe I finished it, but I did. I had to get at least one thing out, for me. That was the drive. I told myself, I got to do one project, one solo project. So I got it out there. And it did pretty well. I invested in radio pretty good to get it out there. And it went to number 5 on the independent smooth jazz charts, number 15 on smooth jazz charts, and got a lot of airplay internationally. Pretty big in the UK, and and that CD is just kind of the overall project was received really well. So I mean, it's I feel like I did what I started out to do. I did it right, for me.
Well, congratulations on seeing that through.
Yeah, thanks. Now, if I could just come up with something after that.
That's
Good
right.
job.
What do you do for an encore? That's what they always say.
That's right. That's right.
But you can always say, hey, this was 20 years in the works. Give me a break.
That's right. That's what I do say. Yep.
So you play those songs out live at all, or?
We did, when I was playing with this 4-piece band here, the CD came out kind of overlapped the time I was still playing with that band. And we did play maybe 3 or 4 of those tunes live, just locally here. I didn't tour or do anything like that. I just told myself, look, if this thing doesn't take off crazy, I'm not gonna sell the farm and go off on the road. But we did them locally, played live, and they were received very well. I'd sell CDs.
Did you ever get to meet Marcus Miller?
No.
Yeah.
I've seen him, but I have not met him. And that would be probably the highlight of my life at this point right now, would be to talk to that guy. Because, I'm like a kid when it comes to him. It's just, I'm in awe. Saw him last year down in San Diego. It was just incredible. Seen him up in Seattle, Jazz Alley. And I'd love to meet him.
What was it about his style that you like so much?
He incorporates raw funk technique with jazz and complex playing, and so everything has a groove to it, which I still love from back, because I'm completely into R&B, and but that just has those overtones, but he incorporates jazz in there too, and it's just amazing how he plays, over those changes, and his writing is amazing. And I also love all the players that he uses, but mostly it's just his technique and his tone. He uses it's a Fender Jazz classic tone, and I just can't get over it, man. It's just the greatest. So
yeah. Well, I hope to have him on this show at some point. And if I do, I'll put in a good word for you.
Oh wow, that would be awesome. I would be forever ever grateful to you if you could make that happen. That's nuts.
So, Joe, you have Dreamin' out, and
Yeah.
are we going to see other tracks too, or and what's happening with that one right now?
Yeah, I just put that out just the other day, this last weekend, and again, it's a song I'd had in the can for like 3 years, and just finished it during. I think I mentioned this early on, and that it's just something to get done, push myself to, and of course, I have plans to get more out there. It's just got to be uh, creatively, I got to be in the right space, and just life that goes on right now. It's sometimes easier said than done. Just the situation I'm in, I just I'm not there right now, and I'm like that, when I write. It's a total feel thing for me. There's nothing mechanical about what I do. It's all by ear. It's all by feel. And I like it that way because it's an adventure. It's not mapped out. I will map it out eventually once I put all the pieces together, but how it's created initially is just it's all floating around there, and it's all emotions and that kind of thing. So, but yeah, I did the dreaming thing last year. There's a song called 54 that I put out. I don't know if you saw that or not, but that's a more high energy thing, and Roger plays on that, and he solos on there. Reminisce Remnants of it's like the Shock Days kind of thing. His solo in there, but that's a good one. You should check that out.
How
Kind of
can
disco feel to it.
how can people keep up with what you are doing?
Well, I have a website, joeplass.com. You can go there, check it out. I'm in the process of updating that right now to add the dreaming thing on there, but my bio's on there, and anything current that's going to happen with me will be on there, and that would be the best way to keep up with me. Or they can reach out on Facebook or Instagram and see me there. Um, yeah.
Excellent. Are you surprised that Shock is still being talked about all these years later?
Not really. I mean, all that's coming back, I mean, that vibe is coming back, which I think is so great. The people that knew it back then in the day are, now they want to feel that again. And it's there, and I think it's awesome. So, I'm not super surprised. I think it's great. I can't believe I was a part of that thing, and but I see that. I mean, if I search Jock's name and I see, YouTube videos or whatever, I see a lot of things and a lot of people liking it and how many times it's been played, like Let's Get Crackin' and all this, and comments that I see, and people still uh, comment to me all this real positive stuff, and it's amazing how that sticks with, it sticks with people. And again, it gets back to, like I was saying, when we play live and how it affects people's lives. Music really, really, really helps steer you through your existence.
Yeah. Amen.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, Joe, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for doing this, and I wish you continued success and stay safe and sane through all this madness we've had too.
Well, thanks, Scott. I appreciate the time. This has been great, and you take care too, and stay safe.
Hey, back at Truth and Rhythm headquarters. Thank you for joining us on another magical ride with Truth and Rhythm. Whether you're watching or listening, as always, thank you so much for your continued interest and support. Be sure to subscribe. Go to YouTube, go to the Funk and Stuff channel. That's where Truth and Rhythm lives and breathes and thrives. Also, goodies here like TIR quick takes. And if you subscribe, you know what? You get the show before anyone else. It's free. If you love jazz, funk, R&B, soul, you can't miss it. Pass it along. Tell a friend. Tell family. This audience is growing, and it is a beautiful thing, all coming together for the love of this great music. Also, if you can throw us a buck or two. We could use the support financially, keeping the lights on, keeping the servers going, all these expenses. If you can help support the program, whatever you can give, much appreciated. Go to the funkandstuff.net website, and on the right-hand side of every page, you just click and you can donate through PayPal, credit card, whatever. Very easy to do and so much appreciated. And if you do a sizable donation, I will mention you on the program. Also, drop me a line. Email me at scottg@funkandstuff.net. Let me know who else you'd like to see on the show, what you enjoy about the music. Let's just kibitz and talk about stuff, talk music. You'll find that I respond very quickly, and I much enjoy the rapport and the camaraderie and the interaction. Always remember, this is your show, The True Music Lover. So for now, that's all the time we have for this one. It's a wrap. As always, Scott Dr. GX Goldfine saying, keep on vibrating to the rhythm of the one.